Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program tutorial / Let's Play. I'm Derek, and we're gonna jump right in here. So let's go to our mission control. I went ahead and accepted another contract off the camera. I was going through and trying to cycle through, find something that we wanted to do. So we picked up the science data from around Kerbal. So we'll just basically send a rocket up into space, grab some science data, and that'll be that. Should be super easy. Eventually we'll put an actual satellite in orbit, and then every time we get that kind of contract we can just grab it real fast. And we'll do the same thing with the moon and Minmus and the surface of those two as well. Throw some probes out on them later. Super easy way to get some quick money if you ever need it. So let's see, we haven't got enough science yet. It's going to be 90 to unlock the probodobodine that I want, and the solar panels, which are very important for a longer duration satellite. Since all of these probe cores, like this one for example, take electric charge. It takes 10 electric, or it has 10 electric charge. You can see it uses 1.7 a minute while the game's running. So you can stack it up with batteries, but that'll only get you so far before you're going to need some kind of way to generate power. As you can see, this battery's got 100, so that'd run us for a couple hours, but or not even 2 hours. But that's not going to run it forever. Whereas once we unlock this solar panel, now we're looking a little better for our power draw. And some bigger batteries too. So that might be our next goal, although general construction is going to be pretty important as well, as is advanced rocketry. So let's go ahead and design a rocket. Maybe we'll do a moon flyby in this one. It's going to be manned. As I don't like to do unmanned stuff until we get solar panels. So we'll go through here, we'll design a little rocket. We've got a bigger fuel tank, but before we do that, we need to design our reentry system. So let's see, payload. Open this guy up. In fact, since I'm going to save so much stuff from the other rocket, I'm just going to grab the Kerbal 1. Because it's already got a lot of the stuff that we want. It doesn't have this guy though. So we are going to want that. But I'm going to put that down in this part of the rocket because it's kind of heavy and I don't want to bring it back with me. It's a little expensive, it's $1,800, so we're going to be wasting $1,800, but I think we'll be alright. We'll just throw away all that stuff and get our own engine set up here. Let's see. Do we have the, we unlocked the Terrier, didn't we? If we throw that on there, what do we got? 1900 meters per second. Just in that. That's a lot of delta V and not a lot of rocket there. So we'll probably do that. And we'll go ahead and throw a decoupler on here. And build out the rest of the rocket real quick. So this isn't terribly exciting. Oh man. That's what happens when you hold down Alt sometimes. You can make multiple copies of stuff. Had certainly enough coffee this morning, so maybe a little bit on the jittery side of things. That gives us about 2.5 kilometers per second in this lower section. 1.45 means we can probably add another one of those to it. Let's see what that looks like. 135, now we've got 2.5 kilometers per second. That's not too bad. I don't think we've unlocked the fuel flow guy yet, so we will do a solid rocket booster assisted liftoff. Which means actually I'm just going to go ahead and throw a full-size fuel tank on here for our Reliant engine. And we will do a full solid rocket boosted liftoff. We'll use the big guys here. And that's all pretty even there, so that's fine. Now we could actually just use these straight up. 1.87 is fine. It's only going to get us 900 meters per second, but that's not bad. It's not bad at all. We'll move that into there. In fact, with 1.87 at liftoff, we might even think about thrust limiting these guys a little bit to like 1.5 or so, and that'll get us a little longer burn time out of them. Get us a little bit higher up, know what I'm saying? Do we have anything in aerodynamic we want to use? I guess we can throw some of that on there, and we'll throw 2 fins on it since it's not going to have great control authority. With the solid rocket boosters, we'll just throw those to kind of help stabilize it, and this will be the Kerbal 1 Mark v1.2. We'll use the little dash since it didn't seem to like the dot last time. As far as science goes, we've got all of our science stuff on here. We don't need the experiment storage guy yet, so I'm not too worried about that. We've got all this stuff. I think this rocket's ready. And at a little over 5 kilometers per second, we should be more than sufficient to do a moon flyby. But before we launch it, we are going to go out here and upgrade our astronaut complex. So right now we can have 5 Kerbals, and they can only get out of the craft on Kerbal. We're going to go ahead and upgrade that for 75,000 bucks. It'll get us some more capacity. That's not super important right now, but it'll let us place flags later, and it'll let us do EVAs in space, which means more science for us. So that's going to cost 75,000. We've got 430,000, so not worried about that at all. Tracking station, I don't think we need to upgrade that quite yet, but we will eventually. Let's see, mission control. I think we can upgrade that too, because that's kind of nice. And actually flight planning is going to be very nice, so we'll upgrade this one too. We're going to spend a lot of upgrade money. So there we are, now we're at 131,000 bucks. That's fine, that's plenty of money. Let's make sure that there's no more of these that we want to grab. Oh, we're not going to be up at that kind of altitude for a suborbital trajectory. That's ridiculous. Why would you do that? We're not going to take a hammer to orbit. Suborbital trajectory for the RoveMax. I don't even know what the RoveMax is. But I don't think we want to do that. We're certainly not going to be on an escape trajectory. This we'll probably do, but I don't want to kind of lock us into these particular speeds and everything. Although 3011, we'll probably hit that on our re-entry. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that, because if not, we can always just launch a little guy and do that pretty easily. Not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're not really at the tourist level of things yet. This is test the LV1 Ant at the launch site. So that might be a good easy 5,000 bucks if we decide we need that later. But for now, let's do it. Alright, let's see. Jeb. Valentina's already got 1 star, so we're going to do Jeb for this one. Let's launch it. And again, I forgot to check the staging, so we'll take a look at that before we lift off. Actually, it looks like I did do the staging, because this is all fine. Yeah, this is good staging. Alright, let's bring up that guy, bring up this guy, engage this. Again, the thrust doesn't really matter for these solid rocket boosters, but a habit. It's a habit to keep it at full. So that's what we'll do. We'll take off. Now we're not launching with a ton of gusto, because I thrust limited these guys a little bit, and they don't get as good of thrust real low, which is kind of what rockets do. In thick atmosphere, they won't have as much thrust, which makes their efficiency not look as good. But we'll be alright. Probably didn't even really need these guys, except for the convenience of having them. Now, this rocket does not have any amount of control authority with these things. Like, I'm holding down the D key, which should be leaning us over, and it ain't doing anything. In fact, we're starting to lean the wrong direction. So that's going to be unfortunate. We're going to have to correct for this a little bit. When we get going, I don't know why I can go up and down, but I can't go side to side. It's weird. Let's at least keep ourselves somewhat planar. We're about to lose these guys anyways. Moral of the story, we probably should have just lit all the engines at the same time. That way we could have used this guy to steer some. Now these fins are going to want to fight us as we try to move ourselves down a little bit. They're really going to want to push us towards that prograde marker, because that's, the aerodynamically stable place for us to be. But we need to get it over in this direction, son. So we're going to use our rocket engine, which is more powerful than it, to push us over here. We're up to 15 kilometers already, so I'm not horribly worried about aerodynamic forces. Plus, with these fins, it's always just going to want to push us back to that prograde marker a lot more than it's going to want to flip us. So we can start leaning over a little bit, get some angle on this guy. And we're looking pretty good. A little snafu there at launch. We'll probably have to redo that a little bit, because we certainly don't want to be going the wrong direction. But other than that, we're looking all right now. 31 kilometers altitude. We're picking up some horizontal speed pretty nicely. I think we're going to be all right, guys. I think we're going to be all right, and we should have plenty of fuel to get us to the moon. I keep using the word delta V. I don't think I've actually explained what that is. So that's just your change in velocity is all it really means. Delta is like the scientific term for change. So that's just change in velocity. It kind of measures the performance of a rocket. How much can the rocket change its own velocity? And it's a very important metric. It kind of tells you, how much you can do. It takes so much change in velocity to get to the moon, for example. So you want to make sure you have enough when you launch. Enough delta V is what they would say. So we probably want to get a little bit more altitude before we get too crazy sideways fast. We may have been a little bit shallow on this launch. Kind of overcorrected for this solid rocket boosters a little too much. So we'll gain a little bit of altitude here. It's going to be alright though. Not worried about it. We'll be ditching this backstage here before too terribly long. Now see, we're starting to get some thermal effects near the front of the rocket. That's usually not a good thing. But I think we're going to be okay. Oh, and yeah, and I let that apoaps go a little bit, so 121's a little bit high. We'll be okay. So see, yeah, there we're not having too many thermal problems now. That can be a serious problem though if you're not careful, because that parachute's our lead component there. So if that thing gets too hot and blows up, Jebediah's gonna be pretty in trouble at that point. But we're alright. So the reason I'm not ditching this back section right now is that it does have some mass and not a whole lot of resistance, because we're breaking the wind, with the front of the ship. So it'll just kind of push us and prevent us from losing as much speed due to the atmosphere right now. Although, with that kind of a apoap sight, we could probably be okay to lose a little bit of speed. We're going to be going pretty high. So let's go ahead and engage the physics warp, get ourselves up into actual space here. And we'll take a look at this. So yeah, that's a pretty high orbit. 120. We wasted a little bit of fuel doing that. But I think it's time to ditch this bottom section first of all. I think it's gonna be alright. It's gonna be just fine. So we'll get up here towards this apoaps a little bit more. Disengage our time warp. We'll point ourselves in the right direction. Now, since we're up high and we're already going pretty fast, this is not going to require very much change in velocity, or delta V, to get us into orbit. So there, I'll engage that engine. I really don't like that thing likes to hide every time. I'll actually put it up to full throttle. And we should be in orbit before too long. So here we go. Negative 20,000, 10,000, then we have a positive. We just got to get that up to over 70, and I'll be happy with it. There we go, 77. Not a circular orbit, because these are fairly separated, 77 to 121, but it'll be fine. And like I said, all we really did was waste a little bit of fuel. We didn't. It's not going to hurt our mission too bad. We're a little bit wasteful. And now that he can EVA for the first time ever, we'll go ahead and grab an EVA report above Kerbin's waters. We'll get him back in the ship. So an easy rule of thumb for going to the moon is wait until the moon rises over the horizon. So we'd want to do our burns somewhere around here, because that's when the moon will be rising. But I think, yeah, we got maneuver planning now. So we can plan our maneuvers with this guy. So what I did was I clicked on the orbit. Let me undo that. So I just normal click on the orbit and say add maneuver, and that creates this maneuver node. You can move this around. Right now it's a 0 maneuver. There's no speed to it, so it's just there. But we can click on this, and this is what would happen if we burned prograde at this amount. And there's the amount of speed that we're burning, the amount of delta V we're using. And you can use your mouse wheel to make fine adjustments with this, but it has some weird logarithmic acceleration of this if you're not careful. And so that's why it did that crazy burn that just kicked us way out into nowhere land. So we'll focus our view on the moon. So in this particular one, we're coming in front of the moon, and then we're going to go away. I don't think that's what we want to do, because that means we're probably burning at the wrong spot. So I'm just moving the node right now. There we go. This one brings us behind. We got 840. So it actually looks like if we move in front of the moon, it looks like we can do something like that. That takes us to 134. Yeah, that'll take us down to 30 kilometers altitude. That's real low altitude. Now what this would do is this will give us a moon escape, and you can see it kicks our orbit up a little bit since we're passing behind the moon. That's called a gravity assist. So we're gaining a little bit of energy from the moon, and it'll kick us up like that. We can do that. 840 meters per second. That'll be fine because we've got 1700 left in this stage, and since this is our last stage, that's just how much we have left total. And it will not take very much to make ourselves go back home after this. So that's what we're going to do. What we're going to do on the navigation ball here, the nav ball, is we're going to point towards this blue marker, which hasn't been there before. But what that's going to do is that's our maneuver. So we're going to point towards that guy, and then we can see that it'll be 20 minutes till we need to do this maneuver, because we are currently on the other side of the planet. So we're going to orbit a little bit, get ourselves off to that side. What's this guy saying? Oh, we performed a spacewalk. Yeah, that got us some science and stuff. Okay, and for these kind of things, I like to just do all of it from the map view here. So this is estimating that it'll take us about a minute to do this burn. So we'll want to start it a little bit early then, around 30 seconds, say. So I'll point at it again, and hit the Z key, get this party started. So you can see this, this first bit, we've already burned over 100 meters per second, and our orbit's just gone up a little bit. It hasn't gone too crazy. But near the end here, small changes in speed are going to really start kicking the orbit out. Just due to the way these kind of things work, as it gets further away, it takes less energy to push it even further. So we're at only 1 million kilometers here, and we're halfway done with our burn. We're trying to get up to the moon. That's at like 11 million. This one's 12 million something, and that's just a little past it. So now we're at 2 million, 3/4 of the way done with this burn. 3 million, now we barely had to add any extra to get to 3 million. 4 million was even less. So you see what I mean by that? It kind of accelerates outward. We're going to lower our engine a little bit as we get closer to this. And we're getting real close now. I'm going to go and focus on the moon. Alright, so now we can see this is our actual orbit, this is the maneuver we planned. We're just going to get rid of the maneuver, and now we're going to make our orbit do what we want. So that's a nice equatorial encounter. You see we're in the plane with the moon. We're not going up or down from its plane. We're very, very even around the moon's equator. That's exactly what we want. So we're just going to point this guy prograde a little. Oh man, just that tiny bit of velocity way out here will have a huge impact on your trajectory later. So we're actually going to thrust limit this to like 29% so that we can make some more fine adjustments here. And that's why we're burning this at this real low point way far away, is because this will have a huge impact on it, and we would have to use a lot more fuel to do that if we waited until we were actually at the moon. So there we go. We're in an encounter that I like. I'm going to go ahead and hit F5 to quick save. And we should be about ready to pop on over to the moon. Now we could grab our high science out here. We could, run out here and grab our high Kerbal science with our goo containers that we have in here. But we're not going to do that because we're going to use both of these. We're going to grab high moon science and low moon science with these. So we're just going to chill with that. And we've got our first bit of science over Kerbal. But what we can do, I don't know if we can do it yet. This might not be high enough. Yeah, so this is crew report high in space, so we'll grab that one. And then what we can do is EVA him. Grab our EVA report, high in Kerbal. And then we'll take the data, store the data. We'll also log the temperature. Oh, he can't do that because he's not a scientist. So we'll grab this, log the temperature. Log the pressure, and I'm going to just, I'm going to use the Q and E keys. I'm going to roll the ship over to this side. I'm going to use the time acceleration real quick to stop it from moving. And that'll just bring the sun over to, to what we're looking at here. So we'll grab him, we can take the data from that, we can take the data from that, and we can board again. So now we've got all that data, but we can run these experiments again. We can't do that with these goo containers unless we have a scientist on board. If one of our Kerbals on board's a scientist, he can reset, or she can reset experiments. Jeb's a pilot. He doesn't know about that kind of stuff. Nor does he care to. So this wasn't necessarily the best encounter we could have done. You see how we're going out and then we're coming back into a moon encounter? If I'd wanted to plan this a little better, I probably would have had to move the maneuver over this way, and we would have encountered it on the way out instead of on the way back. So we wasted a little bit of fuel doing this. But at 900 meters per second left, we're going to be fine. What are you trying to say? Oh, we broke a new speed record. That's great. So we're probably going to lose our connection to Kerbal because I didn't put an antenna on this. But that's fine because we've got Jeb piloting it. He doesn't need people back home to tell him how to do his job. He knows how to do his job. So yeah, not the most efficient encounter ever. And if I was really like, if I really wanted to go fix it, we could go back. But I didn't make a save before making the burn, which was kind of a mistake. Probably should have made one. And then we would have been able to go back and fix this. But so this is a drawing of related to Kerbal, what our escape or what our plan will look like. Once we switch spheres of influence here, this is what it looks like related to the moon. So that's why it kind of fixed that drawing there. And this yellow one is what's going to happen after we escape the moon. So I'm going to stop the time acceleration because we've got some science to grab. And so let's observe the mystery goo. High space over the moon. See, that's going to be worth another 20 science right there. These guys are still pointing at the sun. That's good. We'll log that temperature. We'll log that pressure. Grab our crew report. There's actually a mod out there called Science Now, I think. And I may go get that. That basically just lets you run all these experiments without having to physically click on all of them. It just kind of pops up a little window over here and lets you run all the experiments. And that'd be pretty convenient, so we may do that. Okay, what are you saying? Okay, we're first flyby of the moon. We've escaped the gravity influence of Kerbal, so there's some more science points, some more reputation, and some more money. And this one says, alright, we got our close encounter, so we got our 80,000 bucks. But that contract isn't done yet, because it also wants us to return from a flyby of the moon. What's this note on here? This better not be annoying. Bring the vessel that flew the moon back to the surface. Okay, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We need to keep an eye on our electric charge, because this engine doesn't have an alternator in it, so it won't generate any electric charge. And we haven't invented solar panels yet. So if we run out of that, we won't be able to turn the ship, which will be super annoying. So now we're going to time warp a little bit until we get into low Kerbal, or low moon. And what would be a lot safer is to actually just click on it and say warp to here. That way you don't accidentally overshoot. And, so this part's going to be a little tricky. So I'm going to quick save. Let's say warp to there. I think it's like 30,000 meters or so, but we'll start testing around 40,000. What are we at? 60. Okay, so we're at 50. I guess we'll start testing now. Why not? What if I click surface? I think this thing will tell me where we're at. In space low. Alright, cool. We're in low space. So, observe the mystery goo. Log the pressure data. Where's the other one? There it is. Log the temperature. Take a crew report. EVA. Take an EVA report. Boom. Lots of science for us. Lots and lots of science. So we may be able to get a couple more EVA reports. But I'm going to check on our return. I guess we can just wait till we get out to the Apple apps. That'll be fine. We don't need to modify our return here. We could if we wanted to save fuel, but 900 meters per second, we've got all the fuel we could ever want. Alright. EVA report. Now, I didn't notice which one we got last time. Take that data. We don't really need to take this since we're not going to be using those again, but dumped that. We'll just review that we got temperature scan while in space near, temperature scan while in space high, atmospheric pressure in space high, crew report space high, EVA, temperature scan, atmospheric pressure high over Kerbal, crew report, EVA, atmospheric pressure space near. Okay, so we got them all. And the EVA report was trying to see what biome it was in. So it's the moon's northwest crater. So let's see, lowlands. So now we're in the lowlands. You can see it there. So what we'll do is we'll EVA again. EVA report, or Midlands. We made it to the Midlands there. Board. I don't think the temperature scan is biome locked, but it might be. Nah, it's not. So it's just space low. So that's fine. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing here. Just for fun, if we did add a maneuver, what's that going to do to our orbit? Okay, so if we slow down, we'll kick out our periaps, so we don't want to do that. If we accelerate a little bit, we can bring our periaps in. That is kind of what we want to do. So not in that much, though. So that might not be a bad idea. In fact, I think we're going to do that. I think we are going to do that indeed. Let's point ourselves over at the node. We'll point ourselves there. We'll go ahead and do this burn, get ourselves on a nice free return trajectory to Kerbal. It's only going to be 35 meters per second. We're going to have a ton of fuel when we get back. Just a ton. That's going to be a little ridiculous. The amount of fuel, we're going to have is going to be pretty absurd. Alright, so we'll slow this down so we can get it pretty precise. We don't actually need you anymore. Alright, we'll only go to 30 because this is going to be a pretty steep ascent. And we'll probably play with this when we get around here to use up some of this fuel. So we got 800 meters per second of fuel and we're doing a very high trajectory return, which we don't necessarily want. So actually I'm going to go ahead and quick save here, and we'll time warp on out of the moon influence. I think I've done everything I needed to do there. Alright, the game automatically slows you down, but sometimes it can mess with your heights a little bit. Looks like we're still at about 30, so we should be alright. And since this can be really dangerous, because you're going real slow out here, but when you get around here, it just really speeds up. We're going to click warp to here, so that we don't mess that up too bad. There we go. Now we're down close to Kerbal. Now we'll warp to there. That's what I want to slash. Okay. So what we're going to do now, we're going to put ourselves kind of between these nodes, and we're going to hold our trajectory. We're going to burn. We're going to try not to influence this too much. So if it starts being too much, I'm on the wrong one. We don't want that radial node, we want this radial node. If we start to do it too much, we'll move towards that node, and that will kick our periaps back up. But we're slowing down, so as you can see, our apoaps is coming down. We don't want to kick it up too much, so we don't want to skip off the atmosphere. So do that. We want it to end up around 30 or so. We still got plenty of fuel. So we'll just play with this a little. And this will help make our re-entry a little bit nicer. We won't be going so blazing fast. So we're trying to pick up. We're lose too much altitude there, so we'll pick a little bit back up. Fuel, but not terribly. So these nodes actually move as we're coming around the planet. That's why what's making the number go up will sometimes make it go down. We don't lose too much. Really losing lots of speed here, which is exactly what we want. We want to get rid of some of the speed. A moon trajectory is pretty fast. You're coming in with some gusto. If we can flatten out this return a little bit, that'll be nice. Alright, there. 29.6. We brought that down to 300 some, so that's quite good. I'm quite happy with that. We're going to close that, separate that piece of the stage, which will have affected our periaps a little bit. Yeah, it's down 29.6. So we'll point retrograde, and let's get ready to rock and roll. All right, there we go. We're now entering the atmosphere again. Time accelerate a little bit. We do want to keep an eye on electric charge so it doesn't get too bad, but we're looking fine. We got plenty of electric charge. I could probably just turn that off and let it sit on its own. 50 kilometers. Not too worried about heat or anything right now, so I'm just going to let it go in accelerated speed until it gets a little more intense. So we might actually land, out here. This is really nice. I don't think we've explored this biome yet. We're getting pretty low now, so I'll go back to regular speed, no time acceleration. We'll just kind of see how this goes. So looking pretty solid, though, guys. Looking pretty solid. What's this guy saying? We've escaped the gravity of the moon. Yep, we sure did. There's our debris flying around up there. We're under 2 kilometers a second speed, and we're still at 31 kilometers altitude, so we're looking fine. We're not even using electric charge right now because I turned off the stability. This confirms what I was suspicious of, was that our design is fairly aerodynamically stable, so we're not too terribly worried about engaging stability for this particular entry vehicle. There may be times later when we'll want to when we'll want to have used the stability control if we have a larger re-entry vehicle. But for this particular one, it looks like we're pretty safe. Alright, so there's our drogue chutes. Are we in low? Yep, we're in low over the highlands, so we'll just go ahead and grab some data. That one doesn't have any type of... We already did a crew report, so I guess we're not doing that. There's a littler parachute. Let's see. Surface. So the surface can give you some important information over here. We can get our altitude over the terrain. Which you see that's about 9 kilometers there versus 9.8. So that means the ground here is about 1 kilometer up. We can use that to make sure that we don't slam into the ground because it's different from this altimeter. So, like I said at the beginning, really like numbers. That's why we've got the Kerbal Engineer. Which is a component, you have to put it on your ship, so it makes the ship slightly more expensive. I think it has some mass, but I don't remember if it has mass or not. We can check when we get back to the VAB. I don't think it's cheating. It gives you numbers. Any real spaceship would have all these numbers available to the engineers who were making it, and as it was flying. So I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel bad at all. It's not like MechJeb, which is another mod that will add all these numbers, but MechJeb will also let you do a lot of stuff. Make it be your flight computer, so you can tell it to hold retrograde, hold prograde, execute maneuvers and stuff. I don't think that's one that I'm going to use. That does feel a little bit like cheating to me. To each their own. I'm not gonna lose my mind over someone using MechJeb and tell them nothing they did matters, but I'm not going to use it personally. So let's see, we're going to touch down about 7 meters per second. That's pretty good. Yeah, we can see the ground here is at almost 1 kilometer. We already grabbed, let's grab your pressure data here. We'll EVA Jebediah here, and he'll take that data, take all these, store all those, get his EVA report, get back in the ship. We'll take a crew report here, and that should be everything we need. Oh, and log the temperature. That should be everything we need. So now we'll recover our vessel. Now, some people really like to, try to land their ships back at the Kerbal Space Center. So maybe once we get going a little better, I'll focus on that a little more. Obviously, I haven't been focused on that too much, but look at that, 324 science, and we didn't even land on the moon. We just flew by it. So that is very nice. We landed pretty far away, didn't get a ton of our money back, but we now have a crap ton of money. Jebediah got himself up to level 1. That would be nice for our next mission. Let's see, what do we got here? Explore. Rendezvous vessel. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to be doing that at some point. Science data around the moon. Definitely do that. Plant a flag on the moon. Science data from the surface of the moon. We're going to be doing all of those. And these rescue people from orbits, we might get into doing that before too long as well. I'm not going to accept them quite yet. Let's take a look at our science. The fruits of our effort. We definitely want this launch stability enhancer. That thing's pretty nice. Not super important to get flight control or airplanes, because if I get an airplane, I'm just going to break it. I guarantee. But we will get our solar panel area here. Miniaturization. I don't think we need any of this quite yet. That we'll want later, but not right now. Space exploration. Little rover wheels. I don't think we need that quite yet. Now landing we are going to want. We're going to want the big parachute, the bigger heat shield, the bigger landing struts. I don't know if we need that quite yet. Advanced flight control, we are going to want this lander can. And we're going to want RCS. So I guess we will get these. We get that one at least. We got 184 left. All right, heavy rocketry. This gives us some bigger engines. Propulsion gives us some smaller engines. Fuel systems, that's really nice. And that gives us a lot of this stuff. We can grab 2 of these larger ones. The fairings are really nice, especially when we're launching probes. Don't care about that. We're going to want that eventually. So I think our next mission is going to be a min-miss flyby, just to grab a bunch of stuff from that. But I think what we're going to grab is that. We want those fairings and landing, because we'll want that as well. So that takes us to here. Let's deal with our little notifications. Let's see, science data. How did we already do that? Recent accomplishment, fly by the moon, explore the moon. Explore the moon. Did it retroactively give us the stuff that we just did? We already get. That's funny. Why did it give us credit for that? We accepted it after we returned our guy. Interesting. And explore Kerbal. We didn't already get explore the moon. Yeah, we did do explore the moon, so that one we intended to do. Yeah, cool. So we'll do that one before too long. That'll be easy. I mean, the mission we just did would have satisfied this one, but I think when we do it, maybe we'll build a rover or an automated lander to go transmit us some science data from the surface and some science data on the way down. We can't plant a flag with that, but we'll bring a person to the moon before too long. We got 9 years to do it, so we'll be all right. This thing apparently we did not accomplish. I don't know what about this it didn't like. We'll have to do that later. And explore, we'll rendezvous some stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break here for a little bit. Thank you guys for joining me. And until next time, have a good one.